Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the NRG series 10K modern event. Dom, it's round 5. We're pulling in to the later parts of the day. 8 rounds, lot to go. No one's locked up yet. But let's check out this yearly leaderboard before we see who's going to be in our future match area, try and secure their spot for top 8 and hopefully get their name in orange, as all names in orange are already locked for end of the year Players Championship.
Yeah, we have Will Kowalczyk there in fourth, our first person on the outside looking in so far. He has not had a great day today, but still has a few chances to rebound and has a pretty comfy lead over really everyone else. So can afford a day like that where possible. Expect to see him back on his usual form before too long. And then Wesley Hegman still in the hunt. A few of these names who they've had success before, having success again. Hopefully we'll see at least one of them in our top 8 here before too long.
Yep, and notably too, Will kind of, I would, at least for me, when it was coming to commentating the events, Will really burst onto the scene in Legacy. We saw Kowalczyk kind of dominate all of our Legacy events, or at least do very well in them for about a year straight. I want to say in 2024, and tomorrow we do have a Legacy event, Dom. So that could be the time that Will's going to get a couple more points there. Let's check out our players to watch. You are going to see Will though 1-3. Tough day today. Ryan Hayes 4-0. We saw Grayson Nimitz lose to Roger Suleiman in an epic match in our future match here, and then everyone else on the board.
Yeah, Roger is someone who very much could and should be on this list. It's just we don't have space for all of our players to watch. But Roger is 4-0, and you saw him 16th-ish on the leaderboard currently. If he top 8s on his current trajectory, he will get a nice chunk of points, vault into the middle of that left column instead, and very much be in the running for one of those seasonal slots, even if he doesn't win the whole thing and just bag the spot for that up front.
Yeah, and I was gonna say, I think if you're Roger, you're just like, well, I'll just win the whole event, just punch my ticket that way, let these leaderboard kids keep doing their race, and I'll try and win another championship. And speaking of trying to win, let's go to our feature match area. These players are finishing shuffling up here. On your left, we have Trevor on Domain Zoo, and on your right, Robert on Affinity. Now, these are 2 decks that we have seen in our feature match area today from other players, but also different takes on the decks.
Yeah, we saw Domain Zoo with this new Philia Riddler kind of combo scan package spliced in earlier on, and then Affinity, also a deck which you're a mostly colorless deck, but most of your color sources are rainbow lands, and you can really support a bunch of different things. So a lot of room for customization, and certainly if you're like a Zoo main or an Affinity main, a lot of stuff that you can try and really refine to your own sensibilities. Domain Zoo, though, every list is going to love to start on pre-game Leyline of the Guild Pact. So
there you have it.
Great way to kick the game off here for Trevor.
Dom, the recent fascination I've had that I heard from someone else that I kind of like with Zoo is main deck Thought Seizes. That's the instead of Stubborn Denial, it's kind of like, hey, maybe you have a mix of them. We're just 4. You can do whatever you want with Zoo. Once again, I'm infatuated with the idea of Zoo and just never pull the trigger.
It's a good deck to, goldfish and build in your Mind Palace when you're bored.
Yeah. It's like, oh, I'll have these plans, which will solve these problems. Okay, I'll play Belcher at the tournament. You got me. As here comes a Flooded Strand and a passing of the turn. Fable the Mirror Breaker here for Trevor. We're not doing the Quantum Riddler stuff, as we saw in our round 2 feature match.
Yeah, Trevor does have the Doorkeeper Thralls, which some variants have. So this is a way to kind of build your own scam with Flage, end of turn Thrall into Flage. You don't get the Lightning Helix on ETB, but you also don't have to sacrifice it because you hadn't escaped it. So Flage just sticks around to deal some damage next turn, or if you have Arena of Glory, you get to attack and then get the attract trigger right away. Doorkeeper Thrall also pretty nice against the Affinity deck, as it turns out.
Definitely. All right, as Bolt's going to take down that Emissary. Looks like we're leaving up our mana. We're not equipping the Shadow Spear. Could be something like Metallic Rebuke being represented here. Speaking of represented, by the way, Dom, can you imagine telling people from 8 months ago that Mox Opal is going to still be around and it's like barely going to be represented in the metagame?
Yeah, I mean, we saw what Mox Opal at its worst can do, and so now we deserve Mox Opal at its best, and that's what we're seeing here.
All right, Lightning Bolt's going to hit the graveyard here for Trevor. There's some alternate art card that is just pitch black, and so I assume it's one of those Phyrexian lands. There it is. They're doing this again with the Spider-Man set, Dom, and I hate it.
At this point, the horse is bolted, the genie is out of the stable or whatever. We can't go back as much as we would like to.
Maybe not, as Thoughtcast is going to get cast. Stubborn Denial in the hand here for Trevor could force Robert to pay 1 mana, but decides against it. Notably here, Trevor did have Fable the Mirror Breaker in hand, so we could have tapped out for that last turn. Urza Saga, the land for turn here for Robert. Looks like... Yeah, I was thinking of maybe equipping the Shadow Spear, but decides just to attack for 1. And Trevor taking a think, decides, yeah, 1's okay with me. And here's Doorkeeper Thrall. If this is a Metallic Rebuke in hand for Robert, we can play around Stubborn Denial. It looks like Doorkeeper Thrall is blocking the Servo. So that's going to lead to a Cranial Plating main phase 2. Into a Mimknight, into a pass the turn. Godless Shrine is the play.
Yeah.
Well, 1 damage comes across.
There's Fable. So cranial plating, also kind of a blast from the past at this point, but in a list like this, once you have all your ducks in a row, the idea of everything I put this on, whether it's 1/1 drone from Emissary or a lowly Memnite, everything is a must-kill threat. That is really powerful. And I mean, the Urza Saga also going to be turning out some must-kill threats. So Trevor can try and find something cool to do with the Fable, but I think Robert's in a pretty commanding position for now.
Yeah, I mean, Cranial Plating plus Shadow Spear is really hard for a deck that's trying to win with combat to fight through, right? Like, that's just a ton of life. So here comes the Darksteel Citadel.
Yes, Urza Saga goes to 2 instead of 4, as it turns out. The hidden extra mode does not manifest in this game.
Yeah. Had a Gilgamesh spotting, excuse me, second ago from old Trevor. And it looks like Robert's kind of doing the math here on, do I want to equip this plating? Do I want to hold up this construct? Can I do it all? Do I want to equip the Shadow Spear as well? And it looks like we're just attacking with a huge Mimknight. Stubborn Denial still in hand here for Trevor. Looks like, oh, Leyline Binding was the last card. That's huge. All right. Looks like Fable's up to chapter 2. We drew a Flooded Strand and a Flage. Flage was Doorkeeper's Thrall. Wombo combo. Not the way intended, as here comes a Flage trying to Fire's Fury. Activate Urza Saga. Make a huge construct. That, I mean, if you equip Cranial Plating and Shadow Spear to the construct, it's pretty huge. You have to wonder if you're maybe kicking yourself here.
Or even if you don't.
Yeah, that's fair. The ley line binding here, maybe we're kicking ourselves a bit. As I mean, even if Robert just activates this to make another big construct, and it's really not the end of the world for him if he like can't use everything. That's assuming he doesn't have a land in hand. Could also maybe find something like Springleaf Drum if he wanted to off the Urza Saga to have all the mana to equip and do everything.
There's also the Lava Spurt boots as well. So potentially we could see 2 giant constructs attacking this turn if Robert wants to get that aggressive.
All right, looks like construct being made and searching. So each construct is going to be an 8/8 after this search, which means it would be 17 with Shadow Spear and Cranial Plating equipped on the power. Conveniently, Trevor is at 17 life. And there's that Springleaf Drum. Dom, this is not looking good for Trevor. All right. Using the Mox, using the land, equip the Shadow Spear with the construct. And now, just double checking, do I want to Springleaf Drum over this Cranial Plating? Could also not move it over if you want to instead have a blocker up just in case there's like a Leyline Binding for something like the Shadow Spear or the token. Probably fine either way, as now Trevor's going to get hit for a ton and Robert's going to gain a ton. I believe 9 was the amount there on the construct. As a flipped Fable is now going to come into play. And a Scion with the Leyline. Okay, Dom. This was kind of, one of the things. Okay, and here's Metallic Rebuke that we've been holding up all game. It's finally time. Scion is down.
Yeah, and despite everything, yeah, Trevor does not have one more mana lying around to actually force that through. So really big swing there.
Yeah, we discarded the Stubborn Denial a couple turns ago, right? So we don't have that anymore. Would have been good enough, but now I don't think Trevor has any way to really win the game because Cranial Plating has that secret instant equip mode. So that's going to threaten to be lethal on either attacker, assuming we have the double black for it, which any creature will work with our Springleaf Drum to do. But also you can just equip it to the huge Shadow Spear, and that threatens lethal. Yeah, and yeah, Trevor picks it all up
the
here.
Memnite return to its owner. And yeah, that's where you wonder, like, could we have exiled something else instead? Yeah, probably. But we'll see if Trevor can do a better hit in game 2. And he does have a lot of good sideboard tools here to try and bounce back with. So another Doorkeeper Thrall, Clarion Conqueror, really flexible hate card, but especially against this deck. 2 copies of Wrath of the Skies, the Mystical Dispute, which again against a mostly blue-ish deck, also pretty solid. And then I wonder actually if the Fire Magic is worth considering too, given that a lot of the best draws from the Affinity side will involve Pinnacle Emissary churning out a bunch of stuff, and you got other ways to clean all of that up, but you don't want to have to deal with those individually, and Fire Magic's a good way to hedge against it.
That makes a lot of sense to me. Dom, what do you think about High Noon in this matchup, specifically with you on the play?
So I don't really like it. I think Robert is going to try and empty his hand ASAP anyway, and that can be as early as turn 1. And so if you're spending a card and your turn casting High Noon, and it will affect you as well, not nearly as much, but it's still somewhat awkward. that feels like a lot to bank on when you have so many other good tools coming in. And again, you don't have a lot of great stuff to cut when your doorkeeper thralls are already good and so on. So I would leave those on the bench. I think certainly on the draw, but even on the play.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense to me. I was just kind of curious. It's one of those things I always kind of think about. It's like, and I know people at home
Yeah,
probably feel similar. It's like they play a
but
lot of
it's also
spells.
like, let's say you play the High Noon, and the one spell that Robert casts at that point is Kappa Cannoneer, right? Or
Hmm.
even doesn't cast spells, just passes the turn with Urza Saga up. There's a lot of ways to make good progress. Cast Cranial Plating and equips it, right? Like a lot of these things, you'll cast one spell a turn, but that one spell is good enough.
Checks out. Let's check out the affinity sideboard. See what we have over there. See what we can do to be undefeated after round 5 here potentially. With 3 Consign, 2 Galv Blast, 2 Whip Flare, 2 Force Negation, a Metallic Rebuke, a Tormod Script, a Pithy Needle, and Trips Blood Moon.
Yeah, this is a much more aggressive take on affinity than we saw earlier on. I like the Galv Blast, so they're good in those racing situations. Also good at taking down a Scion if there's no ley line. Often will take down a Kavu as well if there's no ley line, depending on how Trevor has to fetch, and just solid card overall. And then the Blood Moons, these are the big wild card, right? Because this is a 5-color deck, and even if they have ley line, if you then Blood Moon, I believe Blood Moon timestamp will win out there. So anything that isn't already a basic is now still just a mountain, only tapping for red. So I'd expect on the play, at least, the Blood Moons to come in, and then probably on the draw as well. But expecting it to be much harder at that point to kind of find a good window to line them up.
Checks out to me. I'll tell you what lines up really well, though, Dom, and that's our last event of the year. It's going to be November 1st and 2nd in Elmhurst, Illinois. Saturday is a team 10K showdown, standard, sealed, and modern. And Sunday is a modern showdown. November 1st and 2nd coming out for our last one of the year. If you win either of these events, you'll go straight to our Players' Championship with over $20,000 in prizes and invited to the Pro Tour and free entry to the next year of NRG series event. You can also meet Dom Harvey, who will be there doing his best to try and secure a spot at NRG Champs.
I'm not there as a visiting artist, so don't expect me to draw beautiful works of art for you, but you might get paired against me or something, which might be good for you. Probably is.
I was going to say, Dom, playing against you is art, You're a craftsman in the board.
I see.
Do you not consider yourself an artist? I guess not, but I'll tell you
I
who
may
is.
have some artist talent. We'll see.
I think you're more an artist than a mathematician. As we're going to check out these Inkling custom tokens real quick, which you get for winning the showdown, including today's winner will win one of these. You see Dom Harvey there with his Wolverine-esque one in the middle. You see some of the other NRG champions here who have taken an event and got a token of their own. The Matthew Hoey GOAT does not get the appreciation I think it deserves enough. Someone who's done really well here on the series historically and got himself a little GOAT token, which I respect, not the one that's going to see the most play, but kind of the, one of the more show offy, like I'm him tokens, which I appreciate.
Oh yeah, like even when Pioneer was a format that existed, Ghost Rider not seeing the light of day too often. But the real ones know, Mason.
Yes,
the legend of Matt Hoey.
Yes. As it looks like our players have proceeded to cut again on their mulligans to 6, I believe, here. I've thought a lot, Dom, about what token I would want. And I just don't know. I don't think I'd be happy with like any one token that isn't just like something I could use a lot, All right, looks like Flage, some lands, and a couple spells here. Stubborn Denial is one of them. Flage, a card that was terrorizing folks just a few months ago with Energy. And now, Energy, a deck that people are much more suspicious of. And I mean, honestly, Dom, it's not like we've been avoiding it. It just has not been performing today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, maybe Flage is washed. Maybe it's maybe it's always been bad, Mason.
Believable, as here comes Leyline the Guild Pact to start off the game with a land. So perfect mana here for the Domain Zoo deck, as Urza Saga turn 1 is going to come down for Affinity. Makes you think there might be a Springleaf Drum type card in hand, as there is Springleaf Drum. And Stubborn now is going to clean that
Ooh.
up. I like that from
Yeah,
Trevor.
Stamina, I think, going to be like pretty hit or miss in this matchup in general. So I don't think you can afford to sit on it for too long. But yeah, you find a good spot like that. You've got a mana open. Opponent's draw like seems pretty reliant on the drama. Yeah, fire it off and hope for the best.
Yeah, I mean, even just making sure that, like Robert can't be using any real affinity cards this turn, right? I think is just something, not even mentioning, like you're saying, how it might be an awkward card in the matchup, which I totally agree with.
I mean, also if they lead on turn one Saga, right? If they
Mhm.
cast a drum, either their hand is pretty landlight, or or you're thinking maybe that drum with any zero is going to let them try and activate the Saga on 2, then on 3. So you might be preventing at least one construct from terrorizing you later.
Yeah. And this deck doesn't have as many colored sources as you would expect, so maybe even just, getting rid of the drum strands Robert with a couple, draw 2 effects in hand when he has a couple Dark Soul Citadels like we saw for the turn here, as we were going to fetch a Lush Portico and get a little surveilling action. Big Phyrexian fan here for Trevor with that tattoo. That's also, I think, a Monster Energy shout out moment. So looks like a card we're pretty interested in. Big eyeball moment. Stubborn Denial. All right. Hits the yard. That's going to make it easier to return the Flage. As here's Wrath of the Skies.
That doesn't suit your vibe in the slightest, but here's a token idea for you. You
Hit
could
me.
be the Manifest Dread overlay.
Manifest Dread Overlay. Okay. I do think my commentary does that for a couple people. So I kind of like where your head's at with that one. As we're going to pop the bauble, we're going to lose the Urza Saga, which we're going to lose either way, but now we don't get a search off, which is nice. And the bauble is
Yeah,
sort of a weird Lotus Petal.
Yeah, Wrath of the Sky is definitely a card that will manifest a lot of dread for a lot of decks in this format, and Affinity is near the top of that list. Robert going to try and rebuild here with second Urza Saga, but nothing else this turn. Can only pass it back.
Yeah, and you've seen Trevor here still has this Flage. Looks like maybe we accidentally saw a card or something. I'm not exactly sure what's happening, but we're definitely getting a judge involved. Definitely possible we just accidentally bumped and saw like the top card of our deck or something, Don't really
But
know.
luckily, when every card is shiny and has alternate arts, probably didn't even tell what that card was anyway, so it's fine.
Yeah. I honestly
Could be
think that's
anything.
one of the weirdest things about this with like in Modern is Bobble. Like when you are like looking at the opponent's top of their deck, if they have an art you've never seen before, sometimes you have to like double check, but you can't ever double check. You know what I mean? You need to be like very concise and be like, okay, that's what it is. All right. All right, we're gonna have a Flage come on down. Potentially. Looks like we're lining it up, but maybe we wanted to hold. Looks like, oh, we're activating Arena of Glory. Here comes a Scion of Draco. Okay. Bam, attack for 4 on Robert. Interesting play. I wonder if that's better than just playing your Flage and escaping out on the next turn.
Yeah, especially with the Saga. I'm not sure if there would be like a Soul Guide Lantern style card that Robert could get if you were trying to work towards that Flage over a turn or two, but the Scion and Flage by themselves, both more than enough to kind of solo the game, if you like. That's one of the perks of the Zoo deck is all of your threats, especially under leyline, will just win the game by themselves if uncontested.
All right. Scion Draco attacks him again. Robert down to 12. We're going to Flage now. Robert's going to take it. Down to 9.
Worth noting too that this is a fully Izzet affinity deck. So no Haywire Might to try and snipe the leyline or anything like that. Yeah, a little bit more of a restricted range of options. Yeah, but
Yeah.
Robert, I think a a little frustrated with himself about something, but realized the writing was on the wall anyway. So we are going to get a game 3 here.
Yep. And in those spot two, yeah, we made a couple mistakes. Still plenty of Magic left to be played. It's not over yet. So let's just shuffle it up and get to the next game here. As we're going to quickly take a look at this deck again here when it comes to Zoo for Trevor. As I think Zoo, we talked about it before kind of jokingly, right? Like you have all the colors, so you can do anything you want within reason. And players really have explored a lot of what they can and cannot do.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen Psychic Frog in this deck, right?
Mm-hmm.
If your deck can cast it, it should probably have Psychic Frog. And for some definitions of can, this deck can cast it.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's a lot of cards like that where
Mhm.
if you're all 5 colors and kind of ignoring the color pie in a lot of games with Leyline, then sure. I mean, try the wacky experiment, and if it's good, then you get to keep going.
Mhm.
So yeah, I think probably not too much going to change in sideboarding here. I don't think we saw anything from Robert's side in game 2 because
At
honestly,
all.
Robert doesn't get to do all that much.
Yeah.
So what would change even? I wonder if you would consider consigned memory actually, because there's a lot of just a lot of colors cards in general, right? A lot of
Mhm.
that is baked in, and that play we saw of stubborn denial on the drum, you can do that with consign, but you can also 3 turns down the line if you don't have the threat. I think consign's going to line up a lot better against most of the stuff you'd be hoping to sub. Like I'm not sure
Mhm.
which. Yeah, what card are you hoping to stub that you can't consign as easily? Maybe Thoughtcast or something, but
Yeah, I thought Cast is the only one that jumps out to me. Maybe there's some sideboard card like Blood Moon, like maybe like
yeah,
it's
okay.
not normal, but like Robert did have 3 Blood Moons. Maybe Trevor saw it. Maybe they're even friends. We don't quite know these players as well, so it's possible he knows that like okay, Blood Moon's in the deck. I want to have Stubborn Denial for that. But I'm with you. If you don't know that sort of thing where that's on your radar, I kind of like consigned memory over the stuff because I do think the early turns are the ones that kind of matter a lot for this affinity deck. I feel like it tries to like sprint ahead, and then it kind of runs out of gas
Hmm.
normally after that, and so if you just kind of buy a couple turns, you can often kind of close the door out. Looks like Robert's going to take them all again.
Yeah, we kind of glossed over that one Huerto in the sideboard too, but that's another heater that will
Mm-hmm.
definitely make its way in here.
Yep. Robert getting a little shuffle of his deck. It looked like we riffle shuffled from the top bottom. The unique riffle shuffle. I normally see the side, you know what I mean? With a little bridge, I guess is what I'm looking
Mm.
for. But
Sadly, no pile shuffling on camera yet, but there's still time.
oh my gosh, yeah. Well, yeah, there it is again. We actually the players did pile count while we were sideboarding, which I'm forced to watch on my little mini camera and mentally damages me every time. But what are you gonna do?
Look, if you get to watch an expert pile shuffler, there's nothing like it, Mason. It's
That's true.
beautiful.
Dom's just saying go back, watch his feature matches, He's very quick with it.
I'm always saying that. Many
Mhm.
such more people are saying it actually,
More,
because
that's
previously it
right.
was no one, and now it's me. So
Yeah,
that's like
and
100% increase.
then I'm saying it too. And there's so many of your feature matches that I've probably said something about it in the past. I had to kill time at some point.
Yeah, there's a real like monkeys on typewriter situation where every possible sentence you have uttered during one of my feature matches at some point.
Exactly. As we are going to mold a 5 here for Robert. It is tough with a critical mass deck, but this affinity deck does play, 8 draw twos. So if we have a quick start into one of those, we can maybe kind of, get back up to that high critical mass. But also, if we just get Kappa Candy or a Shadow Spear, we can get that on the board quick enough. That can be enough to win the game. Is Kappa Candy or
Does
Shadow
this like
Spear?
give you?
Oh, sorry, yeah.
I was gonna say, does this like give you that like 2015 affinity kind of vibe? If you were someone who
Mhm.
you played that deck exclusively back in the day, and then you sold your Mox Opals when it was tragically banned. If you're looking to dip your toe in that pool, is that gonna give you those same warm feelings again?
I think it's going to give you some of them. I weirdly think the Hammer deck gives more of it. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Because I feel like, at least to me, and I was not around for a lot of the peak of Affinity. I kind of came in as it was leaving, right? I guess it was like a 2 year period there, but like it was never the one of the best decks when I was starting to come up. And I feel like Ravager was a big part of that. Like I feel like the Ravager math and like sneaking across lethal, that sort of thing was a big part of Affinity. So I think it gives some of the vibes. I think it lacks that like kind of sneaky I gotcha moment. You've been around the whole time. What do you think?
Yeah, it makes me sad not to see Arband Ravager or Ravager as the French would say. It's sad not to see that, but I think it's close enough for me. You know,
Sure.
I've played some Affinity in my time, and this gives me some of that rush.
Yeah, we're gonna get Frank Carson in here, get him to weigh in on it all. I feel like Hardened Scales should be a deck in Modern more, and then I remember things like Wrath of the Skies, and I understand why they don't do it.
Yeah, yeah. Who came out with that one? God, ridiculous.
Yeah, the secret cut Hardened Scales card from MH3 lost the time.
There are some nice ones though in even Edge of Eternities, right? There's
Mm-hmm.
the one with Warp that doubles all the counters, and there's it feels like that's such a recurring motif in Magic these days is where you put counters on things, or when you put counters on things, you do something else. So over time, it will get more and more new tools, but fundamentally, there are issues that none of those can really fix, I'm afraid.
Yeah, I have hope that a Pioneer Scales deck exists. Now, does Pioneer exist? That's a better question. We are going to see Spiral of Canal and a passing of the tourney for Robert on the Mold of 5. It looked like a tough one. Looked like there was a lot of thoughts going on. Urza Saga, pass of the turn. We talked about
I have
Affinity.
played Hardened Scales in Pioneer before. Yeah, won a PTQ with it, and then they stole Walking Ballista from me, and I was incredibly sad.
Yeah. Let it back. I don't know. We are going to see how Thundering Falls. I was going to say, we talked a little bit before, at least I did, about how Affinity, I feel like, is a deck that kind of tries to, get ahead, sprint these leads, and then kind of, finishes off across the finish line and gets those fast starts. It does have this other thing, which are just kind of plays an Urza Saga, and sometimes Urza Saga is good enough, It activates a couple times, you get a couple pieces of material for one card, and then, you start playing some things and you slowly build up and snowball like a more traditional deck. But definitely not the game plan that I think Affinity is
Yeah,
known for.
I think ideally you have so much going on that the saga is kind of an afterthought, right? Like you never really have time or the mana to activate it. But yeah, you have the games like this where otherwise you'd just be doing nothing, and here potentially you're doing like a really good something instead. You see Trevor's eyebrows raised, like, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Guess this is how it's going to be. No actual spell put on the stack by either player yet.
Such is life. There's a Fable in hand for Trevor. We could slam that down. Oh my. What on earth is this card? It's from Dragons of Dark here, I think. Twitch chat, save me. As we are going to see an Urza Saga activate.
So it's a 3 mana. Is that Clarion Conqueror? Some like weird alternate
Oh,
art
yes, it
dragon
is.
thingy.
Yeah, that because all right, it's definitely from the Dragon set because it has that art, and that's the only. All right, Dom, you solved the puzzle. It is Clarion
I still
Conqueror.
got it, man. No
Yeah,
one's doing it like me these days.
it's true. I used to be so on top of all the old arts, and now I'm like an old man.
We'll learn soon if Robert has literally any artifact to make these constructs 4/4s that can attack. Although honestly, you'll attack with your 3/3s into the Clarion Conqueror because what is Trevor going to trade?
Yeah,
Trade his best hate card for half of your Urza Saga? Probably not.
yeah, and if he does, you're probably dead anyways, right? So it's a good way to learn a little quick. Move on with your day. Maybe go see an artist, get something signed. All right, Robert gets Shadow Spear. +1/+1 to the constructs in the face of a Clarion Conqueror. But we did see Robert had cards like Galv Blast in the sideboard. Something that pretty easily comes in here, fights over a Scion, fights over a Draco, as it were.
Yeah, it's pretty hard for this affinity deck. Yeah, when you're under a Clarion Conqueror, there's nothing in the Saga toolbox that actually like does anything. There's no, when this enters, do something or whatever. It's just I don't know. Somebody's gonna like sit there watching until hopefully the Conqueror dies somehow and it gets freed up again.
Yep.
But I mean,
All right, so
with with what's going on here, right? So Robert just plays another saga and attacks, and pretty quickly here, I mean, if Trevor just doesn't have anything, that Clarion Conqueror is going to be forced to jump block just to stay alive. I'm sure Trevor has something because he's done literally nothing else this entire game, but we'll see what that something is.
Yeah. So it looks like we surveil. We get a mountain off the top of the deck very quickly. Then we leyline binding. Notably, Robert played the third Urza saga, Dom. So I mean, if you're gonna have a draw and a mold of 5, all these sagas are gonna do a good job of keeping you up on at least material. Robert is gonna take
Yeah, if
3.
you treat those as like 2.5 cards or something, and then you do the math, you carry the one here, like okay, you've recovered from your mod 5 pretty nicely.
Yep. All right. Robert does have the Galv Blast in hand, Dom. Trevor getting rewarded there, getting these artifacts off the board.
So I imagine the plan now is it's hard to get a sense of exactly what else Robert has, but he could probably just sit back, get full value from the saga again, hopefully, and then try to use the Gal Blast to free up everything else.
It's
I guess one
interesting.
concern would be, I guess if you saw Summon Denial, right, the previous game. So if Trevor is able to find a Kavu or a Scion or something, like you don't want Stub to be a relevant counterplay for that, but not much you can do about that if it is.
Yeah. The one good thing going on here is Clarion Conqueror is not the world's fastest clock. It's hitting you, it's putting you under the gun. All the other things are going to close the door quickly. Don't get us wrong, but you've got a little bit of time. All right. We're warping. Here's a Mem Knight. Here's an Ornithopter.
Yeah, and Emissary being an artifact that turns out more artifacts when you cast your artifacts makes it so easy to get to. I mean, definitely Metalcraft, but even just the 6 mana for Kappa Cannon here, which it looks like a lot of stuff's being tapped. I think that's what we're gonna see. There it is.
Yep. And there's another improvise.
Big lad
on out here.
And that should get him another drone as well, right?
Yeah, I think he's just pulling it out from his box. Yeah.
Okay.
Galv Blast is the last card in hand. And yeah, you see this. I mean, Emissary really showing why some players have gone back to this deck. I mean, that one inclusion in the deck has just allowed you to do this sort of thing, right? Sometimes you do it on turn 1, like we saw in our feature match area in round number 2. Sometimes you do it here, and it's just always quite impactful.
Yeah, Trevor really wishes he had that lightning bolt, which at the time, made total sense, right? You got to kill the construct and stop the board getting bigger that way. But Emissary, when Robert kind of buys his time and then uncorks all of that in one turn, you need some amount of instant speed interaction. And one binding's been used already, one bolt's been used. There's just not a ton left after that.
Yeah, we have a Scion in hand. And if Trevor can do something like, yeah, it looks like he has Scion Leyline of the guild pack. So he could like try to get down the Scion now, right? Stem some of the bleeding, and then play Leyline and kind of, hope to race the Kappa Cannoneer. It doesn't seem that unrealistic, especially with the Clarion Conqueror in play. All right, and there's the Scion, and that gives the Clarion Conqueror Vigilance.
Yeah, funnily enough, the Doorkeeper Thrall, there's not actually a ton that it shuts off against the Affinity deck, right? It's Thought Monitor, but crucially Kappa Cannoneer. So if you want to make the Kappa unblockable, usually just any artifact's enough. But if you can't do that, maybe you can chump it with something else, although Shadow Spear in a lot of those spots will make that even more difficult. And no Doorkeeper Thrall in sight either, it looks like.
Yeah. Looks like Robert is thinking about if we want to make a construct or if we want to float mana. Yeah, it looks like we're going to make a construct. That's going to trigger our Kappa Cannoneer. And then the Urzasaga search is also going to trigger the Kappa Cannoneer. And Robert here might be thinking too, okay, I've got this Galv Blast to handle the Clarion Conqueror if need be, but also I might just throw it at Trevor's face. And we know Trevor is like, please let me just untap and slam this Leyline of the Guild Pact.
So even that, I mean,
it's maybe not good
like
enough, but
Kappa's at 7 already, gonna go to 8. And then I guess one hit with both cancels that out, but then yeah.
There's a big construct in play, but I think we have a Leyline binding for Trevor. So it's definitely not,
Okay.
like it's not like all the problems are solved, but I think it's the only way I think the only way Trevor has to win. And Robert is notably at 14. So he's dead in 2 turns. So if Trevor can buy a turn or two, he also has a lot of burn in his deck. All right, he drew a Flage.
Okay, so Leyline comes in. We attack with both. Trevor goes to 14.
We swap life totals.
Yep.
Okay. I don't think we can first strike down the construct, right? Like there's way too many artifacts. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 7, 8, 9. So can't do that as a way to kind of make life awkward.
So a chum block is forced it, and either way, like so either Trevor loses a Scion, at which point there's no kind of onboard threat, or he loses the Clarion Conqueror, but then that opens up so many other issues potentially. And there's no lethal attack on the backswing then either way. So yeah, I think assuming Robert can play any artifact and trigger this Kappa Cannon and then get 2 attacks in. But I think the issue is we may have missed a Kappa trigger, at least one, in a previous turn. And at that point, 7 versus 8 is a world of difference. Okay, there is Pinnacle Emissary. So
okay. Emissary is huge. Trevor does have Flage in hand, by the way. So that Ornithopter can block the Scion and prevent that from being lethal. I remember Robert
and all those drones, right? Which can only block flyers anyway.
True.
Okay, so Clarion Conqueror down.
Mm-hmm.
So now Springleaf Drum is back online. Shadow Spear is back online.
Yeah, and I mean, even just equipping Shadow Spear to anything that can block, just give you a little bit more life. Take a little less on the trample as well. Yeah, it looks like it's going to go on Ornithopter using the Emissary for the Springleaf Drum. Emissary should warp out now, but this game's also probably over either way, but we'll make sure the players know about that. Trevor needs to figure out a way to somehow get across lethal. There we go. I could be a warp token, Dom.
Ooh, you could. That's kind of nice, actually. You could get some like weird futuristic quantum art being done. That'd be nice.
Yeah, maybe I've got like glasses on or something too. I guess I wear glasses these days because my eyes are going bad. There you go.
The problem is you kind of you never get to be on the board. You just be hovering around the edge somewhere, and then whenever you enter the screen, it's because you're immediately about to be obscured by whatever's going to the warp zone instead.
It's kind of like commentary, though, right? It's kind of like I'm here, but I'm obscured by what really matters. I think there's something poetic about it all.
Wow, really makes you think. Anyway,
Robert here is like, okay, I can block with these. No trample damage will happen. Trevor can then flip.
This would be a nice fire magic moment.
Fire magic would have been huge here. Potentially a winner in the right situation. Not in this one, though. And you're seeing, too, just how strong
Yeah,
Kappa Canera is in this deck.
I mean, still any turn of this game, basically, Wrath of the Skies would have just ruined it on the spot. But yeah, looks like Robert makes the natural blocks there.
Robert looks like Robin Williams. That's this whole match. I've been like, he looks like somebody. He even got some of the mannerisms. All right, here's Flage. It looks like it's just going upstairs.
Yeah, so I mean, maybe the hope would be if you get to chump, well, the Shadow Spear is going to make that harder. If you get to chump the construct and live, and he's gained obviously a bunch of life, so that maybe he doesn't even need to do that. But God, the construct is so big.
It's so big, and Kappa Canera can also get life linked by the Shadow Spear now. So whichever one's the biggest is going to also just be gaining a ton of life back. So Trevor might be all in on like a leyline binding here.
Yeah, I thought you said you maybe saw one already, but it would have presented itself by now, I think, if that was the case. So yeah, Galvanic Blast heading upstairs, end of turn.
If there is a binding, I have to imagine it's coming down now with no cards in hand. Okay, there it is.
Yeah, there it is.
Oh,
like well, just kidding.
Yeah, I do respect the double check that token's off the board. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the issue. Right? It feels like if to have a shot to win the game, you need Robert to stay at about this life total, and that means taking the Shadow Spear, assuming that doesn't leave you dead on board anyway. Or I guess maybe if you buy enough time to top deck Wrath, but then if you don't have your Scion, where does that get you? Because the Kappa's suddenly sticking around.
I see the vision. I see the vision, Dom.
Okay.
We have two different outs. Are you ready? We leyline binding the spear. We chump with our Scion to soak as much damage as we can. We're probably alive. Then we have Bolt plus Flage, so we can top deck Bolt, or we draw Arena of Glory. Both of these are lethal lines.
Okay, that's actually a decent number of outs then, if you count up all of those.
Yeah, and there's Flage in hand, so I mean, Trevor just needs one of the bolts now. Maybe he sideboards some out, but I mean, he's at essentially an additional 8 life because the Scion can block and gain 4, and if there's like trample involved or something, it gains like another 4, right? So it's a lot of life potentially.
I think the thing here though, now that the binding's face up, I guess if Trevor's thinking this long, I mean, unless it's a very elaborate double bluff or something, like it's kind of face up anyway. But let's say Trevor hadn't revealed that and just instantly passes back. At that point, if Robert suits up the Kappa and attacks, then you're kind of in the same spot. But maybe, is there a world where Robert tries to put it on the construct, thinking, for what, it gives it trample, it lets me go for lethal right away, and then gets the ultimate blowout from the lane line. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. I think that was your best bet. Was just you have to insta pass if you're not going to do it now, right? Like that's one of those things where you're just like, okay, I am going for like this high risk play because if you let Robert draw, he could draw something like Metallic Rebuke, and you are just dead. Like if the Shadow Spear gets on that Kappa or the construct and there's Metallic Rebuke to stop the leyline binding, the game is essentially over. Because like we were talking about before, you're gonna have too much life. You're not gonna be able to get the damage across. It's gonna be way, way too awkward. But now Robert's thinking, and he's not only thinking about leyline binding, but also what else could maybe be in hand that could potentially stop Trevor from wanting to do it. We know it's more Trevor just hoping things go his way. And it looks like Robert wants to activate Urza Saga. Okay.
Main phase, nice. Okay, so that Yeah, maybe that's his only way to trigger Kappa. Okay,
Okay.
now we see this on the construct. And yeah, so if the thought is, well, there's no
But
other
yeah,
mana source to equip, but there is. There we
yeah, the
go.
land for turn. And I think Robert got Trevor there with a little bit of, like, hey, I'm playing my card, nothing to do. And now Trevor's going to take, oh my goodness, Dom 10, and Robert's going to gain 10.
Right. And there was no real reason, right, to do this now instead of see if the last card was the land to then equip. So yeah, I think Trevor got a bit hasty, and I mean, if you have that read on your opponent, I think Robert played it beautifully given that, but maximum punishment. And
Yeah.
I mean, Flage, the puny Flage, it's escaped from the graveyard, god of fire and fury, whatever, no match for this 10/10 giant life linking indestructible turtle.
Yeah, and unblockable probably too, because you have both the Urza Saga search and activation. And that means you're dead if Robert just activates Urza Saga and has anything in his deck that is 1 or less mana. A likely outcome to have happen. And this is going to be one that Trevor's going to go back, watch, and I think probably kick himself a little bit for. As we are going to construct. Robert's going to remember that Kappa Cannoneer trigger. We're going to search our deck. And I get.
So let's see, how big is the construct? Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This will be 9. So
Well,
I guess with the first strike,
yeah, you don't
you
want to
can't actually
attack
attack
with
with the
the.
construct.
Yeah, you don't want to attack in
Yeah.
general, right? Because otherwise you just gain life for Trevor, because this is an unblockable turtle.
Well, I was thinking if if you could force Trevor to chump with something and
Oh,
then
sure.
just
I see.
close out the outs even further, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9. It's close, but it's not quite there yet.
Yeah, Robert does have whatever's in his hand. He also has those warped emissaries. So if he drew like a Mox Opal or something, that would be a pretty huge. Could play that, get a trigger, play the emissary. Oh, there's Darksteel Citadel. That allows for the emissary to come on down.
Yeah, that does it too, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Yeah. Who would win, Mason? The god of eternal flame or whatever, and a giant life linking dragon, or
A turtle.
just a robot, just a guy, some guy doesn't even have a name, not legendary, not nothing, just a guy.
All right. Well, Kappa Cannoneer is, I believe, 9 plus 4 plus 1. So 14. I mean, this game has had so much damage dealt. It's crazy. So much lifelink. Can Trevor sneak his way out of this, though? And if he does, what does it look like? Because the cap is unblockable next turn because there's the emissary. So Robert can't even draw a land as an out, right? Where you just sort of like hope Robert fades or whatever. So Flage is going to negate 6 of the damage dealt due to the lifelink on Scion. But Robert still gains all that life. Up to 21. Looks like we're in turns.
Yeah, I don't think we'll need all 5 of those, thankfully.
So you can like flage the emissary to get, that out of the way. You're up to 11.
I guess. Oh, this is Wrath of the Skies. Okay. Okay. So that leaves just the lands and Capricorn in play. But there's an emissary in exile, right?
There's an emissary in
Still?
exile. Yeah, I don't see the Wrath. Does he have the land for the Wrath? Because it looks like he just played Flage.
Oh, okay. It's a alternate art moment there. Definitely not my fault in any way at all.
You're all good.
No doubt.
I thought
Now,
I
Flage
thought
definitely doesn't do it.
Yeah, Flage is not enough. Trevor,
Flage sucks, Mason. What the hell?
yeah, Flage does Flage
You
gets
couldn't have
lifelink,
buffed
so
that thing?
it gains the extra 3 as well because it deals the damage.
Just saying, even Flage with extra fake lifelink isn't even a good card.
That's so true. Probably should be fine in standard. Oh, it should have been 2 mana. All right, here's a hardcast emissary from hand. Curious to not see the one warped played, and then just warping this other one and get a bunch of triggers, but I think it's okay. We have a Midnight in hand.
I think we got it, Mason.
Yeah, I think this is lethal. There's 2 constructs in play. They are ungodly big. There's the Kappa Cannoneer. It's ungodly big and has lifelink and can't be blocked. And we're going to just get some artifacts in play, which even if we miss the triggers on our Kappa, which we're not, then we would still just have these huge constructs.
Yeah, don't worry, chat. Next round, we're going to have, Neoform against Ruby Storm or something. Just a little palette cleanser, and
yeah,
it'll be fine.
Well, that was a round and a half. I mean, so much happened that game. Truly a interesting game, and one to go back and watch and think about, what does winning look like? But winning for us, Dom, looks like bringing people Magic as soon as possible. That was turned, so the round timer is done. We are going to take a quick break and set up our round 6 feature match. We'll be back in just a few minutes. See you then.